Angels with Dirty Faces debuted in 1938 to commercial success and critical acclaim. It was nominated for 3 Academy Awards, one each for writer Roland Brown, director Michael Curtiz, and actor James Cagney, and grossed $1.7 million at the box office against an unknown budget that I would estimate to be likely around $500,000 given all the star power involved. So look, how does this film hold up almost 90 years after release? Join me, Jason Peters, and find out what I have to hear and say.
What do you hear, what do you say?
What do you hear, what do you say? I'm glad to see you.
On this spoiler-free solo episode of Esoterica Cinema. Angels with Dirty Faces is one of the most entertaining and technically accomplished of all the old Warner Brothers gangster films. Every single aspect of this production, from the direction to the camera work to the acting, is operating at such a high level that it puts other films of its era to shame. Look, if you're one of those people that finds older movies to be boring, or even if you know someone like that in your life, this is absolutely a film that can change that opinion in 90-something minutes. Let's start with the direction and presentation. Look, this is a film that puts the move in movies. Director Michael Curtiz's camera is rarely static, opting instead for effective pans, evocative push-ins, and these sweeping, buttery smooth crane shots that bring New York City's Lower East Side to life. The environments feel authentic, and the characters equally so. And whatever Curtiz's camera and crane operators were paid, in my opinion, they should have made triple. The framing of the shots works so well in their exploration of height and scale that the characters are made to look just as grand as the city itself. Saul Polito's lighting does a great job of making sure that every single detail of the environment and character is visible to us as the audience, and it perfectly matches the tone and mood of a given scene. And that's all the more impressive given that the film explores multiple tones. It can go from serious to lighthearted, and the stark noir lighting of the impressive police shootout in the film's third act ensures that we get rich, vibrant shadows without sacrificing the ability to see exactly what is occurring on screen. This is a film that absolutely bursts with energy, and Curtiz and Polito are largely to thank for that. Another technician also responsible is editor Owen Marks, who ensures that scenes never drag out for longer than they have to. Even during an extended basketball sequence that features a group of young pickpockets and hoodlums who were affectionately referred to in Hollywood at the time as the Dead End Kids. And while it could be argued that maybe this is the one scene that you could remove without affecting the story, it's such an entertaining and humorous scene that we're happy to spend some extra time here, especially given that it allows for strong comedic interplay between these ruffians and our protagonist, Rocky Sullivan. Marks never lets the movie rest on one shot for too long, but also does so in a manner that never makes the movie feel rushed. It keeps the brisk pace and crackling energy going forward without sacrificing story or character development along the way. Speaking of crackling energy, so much of this film succeeds because of the absolutely stellar performances from its stars, the most impressive of which has to belong to James Cagney. And look, why wouldn't it? Cagney is one of history's great actors. He's a man who is always captivating, even in those productions that may not have lived up to his talents. James Cagney is absolutely electric as Rocky Sullivan, a character you can't take your eyes off every second he's on screen, which thankfully is most of the entire film. He embodies everything that we love about great gangster characters from early Hollywood, from the fast-talking dialogue to that "they'll never take me alive" attitude, right? He's a straight-backed and confident man, and he's always the smartest person in the room, a trait exemplified by a scene in which he knows he's being tailed by police and has the intelligence and foresight to set up one of their own as a fall man. But it would be a sin, and yes, I'm using that as a pun here, to ignore Pat O'Brien's father, Jerry Connolly, a man who grew up as an angst-ridden youth palling around with Rocky, who goes on to embrace his role as a local pastor later in his life. The film sets up Rocky and Jerry's relationship in its opening scene, showing them as youths who develop a great friendship that extends well into their middle ages despite these very divergent life paths. one of Curtiz and Warner Brothers' wisest moves was casting these two characters aside one another, and I was delighted to learn that Pat O'Brien and James Cagney were actually great friends in real life. And it makes sense because their chemistry leaps off the screen. Never for a moment do we doubt the true affection that these two people have for one another. The film also stars Ann Sheridan as Lori Martin, who's admittedly a bit underwritten as Rocky's love interest, though at the same time I do feel the film would have slowed down if more time were spent on her relationship with Rocky. Now, Miss Sheridan does a great job of playing the coolly detached character who's ultimately unable to resist the siren call of the wealthy lifestyle that Rocky is able to provide for her. And this is also set up by a fun scene early on where we see her standing up to Rocky's bullying as a youth, one of the few people who does. Surprisingly, the film's least exciting performance belongs to Mr. Here's Looking at You kid himself. That's right, Humphrey Bogart upping the detached coolness of Ann Sheridan by at least 50%. And while that works great for playing Philip Marlowe, the character of Jim Frazier here in Angels with Dirty Faces is written as a much more emotionally reactive character when he lets his guard down, more so than Bogart allows the character to show on screen. I'm not going to say it's a bad performance, but when put up against the like of Cagney and O'Brien, it does come across as unnecessarily flat. The film's trajectory never veers off course and leads up to one of cinema's most thrilling shootouts, regardless of genre. And the film's climax itself is one of the most resonant moments that we have in cinema. I did mention at the top that this was going to be a spoiler-free review, so without giving anything away, I will say that the choice Rocky is presented with by his good friend Father Jerry at the film's conclusion is so weighted and so moving, it gives the film an emotional resonance that it wouldn't have had otherwise. I also applaud director Michael Curtiz and writer Roland Brown for presenting Rocky's decision as ambiguous, allowing each of us to form our own conclusions as to the how and why of what happens. And also, I would like to say that while cinema is full of oft-quoted lines of dialogue, I've never heard anyone acknowledge Father Jerry's response to this final moment as being one of those great lines. It's effectively moving and brilliantly summarizes what makes Rocky Sullivan's and Father Jerry's relationship so special. For all the reasons that I've outlined, and even more that I didn't to keep things moving along, I'm giving Angels with Dirty Faces a full 5 out of 5 stars. This is a movie that can be enjoyed by any audience member out there, even young kids who will appreciate the attitude and hijinks of the Dead End Kids and their humorous and touching relationships with both Rocky and Father Jerry. The film crackles with life and energy, and Cagney's brilliance makes Rocky Sullivan one of cinema's best and most entertaining gangsters, bar none. What did you think of Angels with Dirty Faces? I'd love to hear about it in the comments below and see if you were just as captivated as I was, or if perhaps there's shortcomings you acknowledge that I missed. For Esoterica Cinema, I'm Jason Peters. Keep on appreciating film and enjoy the movies.